Oh, you got one there!
Wait, what?
Love you lot. Okay.
Oh, William Meathead. Dark cold and oil on
어제도 오늘도
The sky tumbling down. I feel the earth start to tremble down. Whenever you're around, I just lose control.
Okay, find the card. Number one. What's your name? Okay, find the card. Okay, Harrison. Okay, Harrison, find your card.
Still got my greatest treasure. Big woman, you made a bad boy out of me. Oh, would you take me outside? Oh, my life. Oh, you did it all. You got my money, girls. You need to rock the world, go round. Oh yeah, how much girl?
So by now you might be wondering what's going on.
Signal.
Got it.
We're in?
Great, yeah, okay,
Okay.
let's go.
Hello, and welcome everyone to what we think is our 6th online session. They're getting a lot more regular now, so it's harder to keep track of them. This one is about making the most of your time at the Fringe. A lot more focused on social media specifically, both what the Fringe Society are doing and how we can help you get involved with that. And so you can really engage with us from wherever in the world you're coming from. Hi Ron, I see you're coming to us all the way from Canada. These sessions are at their best when they're interactive and you get involved. So if you do have any questions at any point, try to bring them up when it comes to sort of the relevant section that we'll be talking about. It's very much going to be in 2 halves this session. The first half is going to talk about some of the campaigns that we're running that we'd love it if you got involved with. And then the second half is going to be us talking through sort of advice on how you can best use some of the social media channels that are out there to get the best return for your show. So anytime, just pop a question into the comment section. We'll try and keep track of them. There should be time for some Q&A at the end. But if not, like if you do try and bring it up in the sort of relevant section, we'll try and keep on top of those.
It's really great to see already some of you guys coming into the live chat and telling us where you're tuning in from. So keep that coming. That's good.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're from all over the world, which is exciting. We've already got Canada, New York, Wales. Careful, we've got the whole trifecta. So I'd just like to start off by introducing you to the team that we have here today running the session, sort of who we are and how we can help you. So normally in the past we've just given you a little snapshot of ourselves, but technology willing, we're now going to show you us live and in person, hopefully.
Hopefully.
Hi, I have no idea if you can see us, I'll start off. So my name's Alan. I'm the Marketing and Registration Coordinator here at the Fringe Society, which basically means I head up show registration and also our media advice service, so helping anyone with their marketing.
And I'm Caroline. I'm the Media and Marketing Advice Officer, and I'm already seeing some names and companies I recognise up there already. So if you've contacted the media advice at edfringe.com email address with your press releases or any questions about social media, promoting your show, anything to do with marketing, it's me generally on the other end of that. So hi.
Hello, I'm Daniel Saunders and I'm the Digital Marketing Coordinator here at the Fringe Society. Both names. So I look after sort of social media and digital marketing activities of the Fringe Society. So obviously this session is very close to my heart.
Yeah. I'd also like to introduce, because they're a little too far away from the microphone, we have the lovely Eve and the lovely Jack, who are here running all of our tech and keeping us live and talking to you throughout the session.
And hopefully turning that webcam off sooner rather than later.
Yeah, I have no idea if it's on. I don't even know where to look. So.
I'd like to say thanks to Kate Reek, who said #hotties.
Great, so let's get things started. So one of the first things we want to talk about is kind of what the themes of our campaign is this year, how you can get involved with that. So Daniel, do you want to take us into the unknown, as it were?
I'd love to. Before we venture there, thought we'd just make a little plug at this stage for the media advice at edfringe.com email address, because we come to it so many times in these sessions. And while we try and answer every question and we get through the live chat as we go, media advice at edfringe.com is the go-to email address for any questions you've got about marketing your show. And the lovely Alan and Caroline are just waiting, ready and waiting for your questions.
Yeah, it's basically a direct line to Caroline.
It is. Call me.
So let's venture into the unknown. So hopefully it hasn't escaped your attention yet that this year's Fringe campaign, and indeed the programme cover, is very pink, very vibrant, here to catch your attention. And this year's theme is Into the Unknown. The idea behind this is the Fringe is a unique and crazy world where anything is possible, and more importantly, no two Fringe experiences are the same. And also, you go into a show, you have no idea what you're going to encounter. Is that your sort of views of coming as an audience goer?
Yeah, like, so one of the things I loved about the Fringe before I worked here, before I brought a show in general, was that kind of idea of you never know what's going to happen. And as someone who's worked on the Fringe since 2009, that aspect of every single year something happens that you weren't expecting, or you see 15 shows that weren't even on your radar before it started. So yeah, for me it's what it's all about. And usefully, Daniel, handily, the fact that Into the Unknown, there's a lot of things you can prefix that with.
That was very seamless.
Seamless.
As you saw by the webcam, there is no script. But scriptedly. So this year we've taken a slightly different approach. So historically the hashtag about the Fringe was #EdFringe, and it's really great and it's still around and a great way to talk about the Fringe all year round. But this year we thought we'd mix it up a bit and give people a chance to use it how they want. So you've spotted that this year's hashtag is #IntoTheUnknown and can be paired with all kinds of ridiculous verbs. I mean, Caroline, have any caught your attention?
There's a lot of sliding, there's a lot of diving, a lot of water sports going on for a...
Yeah, I've seen a lot of dancing.
Yeah, dancing. Tiptoeing, I've seen a tiptoeing.
She also said tripping, which I was worried for them. I just wanted them to be okay.
And I think the choice is, up to you as a performer how you use it. And I think more, we'll get even more variety once the Fringe begins and Fringe goers start using all kinds of verbs, many of which we probably won't say now, about their Fringe experience. But the idea is that it's sort of free for people to do with how they want, much like how the ethos of the Fringe is. Anyone can come and do what on earth they want, what the hell they want to do. The hashtag is kind of the same. So
I'd like to pick out a key verb, Daniel, to talk about one of our first mini campaigns within the whole macro. Or are you not done?
I'm not quite done.
Okay.
Okay. It was more just to say that this hashtag is so much bigger and better than what we've had in previous years. And the reason for this is we've made such a real concerted effort to get it out there further and wider. So not only is it now on the programme spine for the first time ever in Fringe history.
Daniel tried so hard for that.
It's a landmark moment,
yeah.
And indeed on every single page of the Fringe programme, it has the hashtag and how to follow us on social. But the hashtag and the campaign is much further and wider than ever has been before, so you'll see it on trams, you'll see it if you're travelling to the Fringe from a number of cities on the East Coast main line, so if you're coming up from London or from York or from Newcastle, you will see the Into the Unknown landscape at your feet as you're about to venture on your journey.
Yeah, I was in London a couple of weeks ago and I was confronted with Into the Unknown on the tube and it looked great.
Thanks very much. And even across the city of Edinburgh, the Into the Unknown campaign and the branding and the hashtag will be everywhere. Even ranging, if you performed at the Fringe before, on those poster towns, you see all over the city, every single one of them will have that hashtag, sort of loud and proud, ready to be seen by everyone.
Nice. Can I do my seamless segue now?
Yeah, why not?
Yeah. So, you talked about people travelling up. from all over the country on those train lines. So one of those verbs I want to talk about for our mini campaign was journeying into the unknown. What's that all about, Daniel?
So like we say, you can use any number of verbs with this, but we thought we'd just come up with a few examples to sort of group some ideas together and point people into the right direction. And the first one we looked at was journeying into the unknown. And the reason we did this is because it happens anyway. It kind of goes without saying that coming to the Fringe, whether it's your first time performing or your 15th or your 50th, it's an incredibly exciting experience. And people naturally want to document that journey.
Yeah, and it's great because people literally come from all over the world. That journey is different for so many people. Some people are doing a one-person show with their entire set and their rucksack on their back, and some people are like flying with a full-scale production from somewhere else. So like that, generally, your individual story is really important. It's actually a really fun, really easy way to sort of do some really good content.
It's super easy, and although we've given the example of journeying into the unknown, like Alan says, if you're driving or flying or training or running or cycling your way to the Fringe,
I will not be running.
You'll not be running. We only live down the road. Stumbling. That's quite a heavy start.
Yeah.
We wouldn't necessarily advise that from a health and well-being perspective. But journeying is just a starting point. There are so many different ways you can go about it. We've actually popped a few examples on the screen that just happened in 2017. And the reason we picked these was just because there's some pointers we've got about them, which I'll now go into.
First, there's a question, Daniel, that might be relevant to this point.
Sure.
So from Caustic Comedy Events, hello, welcome. Does that mean it'd be wise to put the hashtag into the unknown on posters and flyers?
This is a question I actually get a lot, Daniel, coming through to media advice. So what would you think?
Well, I'm super biased, so I would say yes, because it's the hashtag to talk about the Fringe. Absolutely, it will be everywhere, and just using it shows you're kind of clued up and part of that conversation. And we'll come on to it in our second half about ways you could use social media yourself, but there's nothing stopping you seamlessly, like Jeremy has just pointed out, a regular attendee of these sessions has pointed out that you can run multiple hashtags on your poster. There's one that unifies all the chat about the Fringe together, but equally having a separate one alongside it that's just for conversations about your show. That's a really good starting point and a really good question.
And after dinnering is one of the most unique verbs into the unknown I've heard so far. So well done, Jeremy.
I can't wait to see those photos.
And hello, Maddie, who's joining us now. Don't worry about being late to the game. We absolutely can keep you up to speed.
And you can indeed pause and rewind this session at any point, but it's really good to stick with us live just so you can throw questions in as we go.
Getting the live experience.
Yeah, I just had one other point about these examples on Into the Unknown, which they're just real world examples from last year, and hopefully one of the or many of the companies involved have joined us today. And we just wanted to reiterate a really important point about the Fringe Society, which we may have said to you far too many times and you may be bored of it. But we as the Fringe Society are a charity, and our role is to be an impartial guide to how the Fringe works. So as such, we can't promote or show any bias to an individual show, venue or performing company. So for that reason, much as we want you guys to share stuff into the unknown, whether that's journeying or many of the other things we're going to talk about, all we ask is if you want a chance of us being able to interact with it and retweet it, that post shouldn't be super salesy, which I think is just general advice for social media. But if you're going in and just going, like in the middle example, we're pinning ourselves fear-ridden going to the Fringe, because they're not saying, check us out on page 238, or here's the URL to our ticket site. It means there's a chance that we as the Fringe Society can interact with it. Whereas if it's saying, come see our show, unfortunately, because we have to remain impartial, we can't touch it.
Yeah. And just in general, like as Daniel said before, it's just when people are sort of asking for retweets or being too pushy to get one, that's just really dull for people to like enjoy and follow your conversation. So keeping it sort of light and breezy and conversational and social, keywords, is just the best way to interact anyway.
And we will come on to it, but you'll be amazed at how many people send us a DM and say, oh, could you give us a cheeky retweet? But with over 3,500 shows registered, if we did, we'd have to do it for everyone, and it would just become, our Twitter feed would just become impossible to read. It would just be constant retweets. Whereas it's much better where we have this one hashtag of Into the Unknown where we can point people to, say, go look at this, here's some shows showing their adventures. It's much better.
So we've journeyed well into the unknown. We're here in Edinburgh. The Fringe is happening.
Mm-hmm.
I guess that leads quite seamlessly, almost planned, into sort of the next aspect, the next one of the sort of mini campaigns that we're running. which is all about taking your first steps into the unknown. I love the image that you're all about to see. Do you want to give some context of what this means?
I could. I really wish I'd included the photo of Lee Latchford-Evans of Steps from 2016, who did perform at the Fringe.
Okay, listeners, Daniel is clearly referencing the fact that I am a little bit obsessed with the band Steps, and Lee Latchford-Evans is my hero.
But he indeed, I think that was the first time he performed at the Fringe, and he himself took his very first steps into the unknown. And this is...
I love that we've got steps in the info session. I'm really excited. Thank you.
I think I've won a bet just with those words alone. So this is quite similar to Journey into the Unknown. It's the idea of capturing that excitement, you know, before you perform at the Fringe, again, whether it's the first time or that you've been many times before. And this obviously doesn't matter whether you're doing a preview run, whether you're doing a full run, whether you're doing a later run. It'd be really cool if you could just capture... new screenshot? If we've just got a few comments in, if you're experiencing a little lag, we recommend just refreshing your browser, and hopefully that should bring it back in, because everything's looking all good for us on our side. So hopefully a refresh will pick it up, and if not, don't forget you can rewind at any point and catch this later. So first steps into unknown is the idea of capturing your feet backstage just before you go on stage, and that's one of the exciting things about the Fringe, is backstage is all kinds of things. It will be a meeting room, it could be a bar, it could be anything. What kind of things do you think we're going to see on this?
Well, one thing I would say, rather than the sort of content, is like just thinking of like, this may seem like a little thing to you, but genuinely, I find year after year, people are so fascinated by what it takes to be a part of the Fringe and getting a glimpse, like sort of backstage or behind the curtain. I remember when I did my first Fringe show, and it starts to feel like you're so wrapped up in the process that you're like, oh, I've not got any new content that's exciting, and then you speak to people back home and they're like, oh my goodness, like where do you get ready before you go on and do a Fringe show in a certain space? So like it really is something that can give you really easy but interesting content that people are gonna care about. What do you think, Caroline?
No, I agree. One thing that I often tell people in our media advice sessions is, you know, when people are saying what kinds of things can we put on our social media, and I tell them that, you know, just some of that behind the scenes stuff that people don't get to see. They can come and see your show, but they want to get to know you as a person. They want to see, you know, where you rehearse, and as this first steps into the unknown is trying to do your backstage experience, something that they aren't usually privy to. So definitely, this is fantastic.
Great. And so Daniel, we've got like another question come in. I'm going to fire your way. So on the point of not being too salesy, which is a good word, I appreciate using that word, I use it all the time. Would you ever be able to retweet clips or footage or videos from companies?
As a general rule, no, but there's a strict caveat to that, which is we have these little mini campaigns such as Journeying into the Unknown or First Steps into the Unknown. So if you have an example of that, we can do, but if it is just, say, a regular trailer for your show, because it's not linking to an activity we're doing, we can't just retweet it, because again, when would we stop? So it may sound a bit harsh, but it's the way we can try and ensure fair treatment. But if you post a video that's your first steps into the unknown, and it's like you're doing a flip backstage onto stage, there's a possibility, providing that post isn't doing the hard sell, that we could have a chance of being allowed to retweet it and have a chance of looking at it. Historically, we wouldn't, in years gone by, we would never have done that. So this is kind of our first step in trying to open
our first
up.
brave step into the unknown.
And so, what, Daniel? Just to clarify, what constitutes a hard sell? What should people not put in a post if they want us to engage with them?
It's kind of any direct reference to your venue, where to buy a ticket, to where you're on the program. So if it's just a piece of content, it's about being behind the scenes or being excited about the Fringe. As long as you're not saying, come see us at 3 o'clock or this or that. You know, it could be super soft sell, but it's effective. People, like Alan says, want to know you as a performer, even if they've never met you before or even seen your show.
Totally, and then you seem really interesting and fun. People are going to click on your profile, which I imagine is then covered with all that information about your show, and direct people there. I think this leads on to a question that Ron has asked in the comment section. Thank you, Ron. And again, this is probably your domain, Daniel. Can you talk about, give us examples of how people have engaged with Into the Unknown? I know it happened a lot around launch, or the ways that people have been using it that have been really successful, and are people who aren't performers picking up on it?
Yes, lots.
Yes.
I'm trying to think how we have to stick quite close for time, but there's been an enormous pickup of Into the Unknown, whether that's been from performers pushing their show, but more importantly, just members of the public planning their Fringe adventure, just picking up the programme and taking a photo of it by their feet without any prompting. People have just been talking about coming to the Fringe and how excited they are, so it's your chance to be part of that mix. Any other questions? There's a question about hashtags from Julia, which I'm going to hold off for now, because in the second half we'll look at specific social media tips, and indeed of other hashtags that you can use. We'll come on to that in a wee bit, but for now we'll just cover some of these other mini campaigns.
Yeah, so you were talking about performers and people generally promoting their show, and things that we haven't done before, and that leads quite nicely on to our next sort of mini campaign, which we are calling hashtag Quick Flyer. Now, Quick Flyer is going to exist as a sort of digital space for flyering. And Daniel, can you expand on that? I feel like I'm making you do all the grunt work.
I can give it a go. I mean, many of you will have spoken to Caroline about the importance of flyering as part of your marketing mix, and that is as true this year as it was 20 years ago, and indeed into the future. Flyering is still a big part of your marketing mix. However, it is 2018, and I think there's a number of ways we can look at alternative ways of promoting your show, and also obviously that second strand of trying to reduce the amount of paper that's produced for the Fringe, because there are hundreds of thousands of copies of the programme, which we're reducing year on year because more and more people are booking online. We're looking to the future of making ticketing all digital. So the sort of third strand is how can show promotion become less paper-based? And our proposal for this year is this campaign called Quick Flyer, which is the idea of looking at alternative ways of going out on the Mile or indeed around George Square or wherever you choose to go to promote your show, and doing it online. And specifically, just to give it a bit of a focus, we're saying that every Friday from this week onwards, between the hours of 12 and 2 o'clock, is your time to shine, to jump onto social and tell people why they should come see your show. And given we have that challenge that we can't tell people what to see, we often have a problem when people say, oh, what show should I go see? We can't tell them what to do, but we can say, have you checked out hashtag Quick Flyer, particularly on a Friday afternoon, but indeed you could use this anytime you want.
And do you know what, in general, for it helping your actual flyering, I'm going to throw a question your way, Caroline.
Oh.
We talk a lot about being able to pitch and how flyering is about discussing, sort of telling the story of your show. So do you feel that there's a way of actually thinking about what your quick flyer pitch is, and a sort of limited number of characters on Twitter can help in general with your flyering process?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think, probably the same rules apply, Alan, in that, we often talk about the elevator pitch where you've got 30 seconds to sell your show. When you hand someone your flyer, you've got 30 seconds before they kind of lose interest and walk on and grab another flyer. And I think you're sort of looking at the same sort of situation with social media. I mean, you're restricted in characters in many cases, like on Twitter. So you've got to be able to sell your show in a shortest amount of space possible. And that's about finding the thing that you're passionate about your show, what's the most unique, interesting thing about it, and sell it. Use that and yeah.
And I think we'll go on to, in the second half, and we're talking about different mediums and how to make the most of them. But remember, it doesn't just have to be words. You can use like a short video pitch, you can use imagery, things to keep it diverse and exciting. And it's important to note that as much as Daniel said, we're going to push it every Friday 12 till 2, that you can use that anytime, we can direct it to any time. So 12 to 2 is a really great, on a Friday is a really great time to concentrate, focus and have a really good post. But you can do that daily if you want.
And I think that the reason we've gone for Friday between 12 and 2 is a huge percentage of Fringe goers make their buying decisions or their show decisions at the very last minute. And at the Fringe there is a huge local audience of people who on the Friday afternoon may sit around at lunchtime and go, what am I going to see this weekend? And now we have the opportunity to point them in the direction of people doing cool videos or animations or indeed a little Periscope live stream or whatever it is you choose to do. And we're just really excited to see what you guys come up with, because you are the most creative people in the world.
Yeah, and we're generally excited because it's the first time we've ever tried something like this. So it's a whole new, it feels like we've unlocked a whole new way of people promoting their show and creating a bit of a hub and excitement for people at the largest, most wonderful creative arts festival in the world.
And you can Sorry, go
I
ahead.
was just going to say, Daniel, is this where people can actually put the link to their tickets and their venues and things like that?
Totally. Because under Quickfire, we're unlikely to retweet any of it because the point is you are pitching your show. It is that time for you to shout about why should someone come and see you. It's absolutely perfect for that. And it's obviously, there's going to be so many different ways people are going to do that. Take inspiration from other people. It's not plagiarism. There are no original ideas. Even when it comes to show promotion, there's been so many creative, extraordinary ideas over the years at Fringe, and there's nothing wrong with a little bit of inspiration.
And is it just going to be other performers seeing this hashtag? Like, who else is going to be seeing this?
So, like we say, members of the public looking for something to see will go onto the hashtag. We hope, fingers crossed, in Edinburgh, if enough people are tweeting about it, that should be trending, fingers crossed. There's a couple of questions coming in, which I'll get to in due course. But you can promote the hell out of your show on Quickfire. That's absolutely fine. And in general, on social media, you can still promote your show, but it's all about getting a balance. And we'll touch upon that in our second half of the session when we talk about social media.
Right. I'm gonna power us on to get through some of the rest of our mini campaigns, so as we can get to those other questions.
Sure.
We're now going into what I'm thinking of as the animal focused portion of our mini campaigns.
Yes.
We have 3 more we're going to talk about today. One of the features you'll notice from the lovely cover of our Fringe programme and our campaigns in general are the introduction of our lovely Fringe pigeons, mainly gold, but also in a variety of colours all around the city. So Daniel, can you talk about our Catch the Pigeon mini campaign?
Sure. Loads of questions coming through. We will come up to them. Catch the Pigeon. The golden pigeon is one of the icons of the Fringe, and we are running a little competition for Edinburgh residents and then visitors to the Fringe, where they can come and hunt down these pigeons, not literally. We're asking them to shoot them, but with their camera.
Yeah.
So they're going to go out and about the city, grabbing photos of these plastic pigeons. And we thought, 12 pigeons is not enough. So instead, we've got hundreds and hundreds of these pigeons.
Literally
hundreds. And the reason we mention this today,
I think we caused them to sell out at one point.
We have the European supply of plastic pigeons. That every venue at the Fringe is going to have their own decorated plastic pigeon hidden about their venue. So we just simply encourage you to encourage fans to go out and about, grab photos of them, because if they snap them, every few days we're doing a random prize draw and we'll give them vouchers, see a Fringe show, and potentially they can use that voucher to come see your show.
Yeah, so if a show can creatively put their show or their activity into the pigeon, into them finding their own pigeon, do you think that would be a good idea for?
I think so. The pigeons are going to be absolutely everywhere around the city, and they're literally 3D plastic pigeons like you see on screen. But if people can find ways of perhaps linking their venue in again, say, could you find the pigeon where I am?
Could we like whose pigeons there?
Yeah, and we're really excited to see
pigeon-based banter.
We're excited to see how different venues take that pigeon in different ways. So that's the animal theme. There were words for this. So there's hundreds across the city of Edinburgh, and each venue can customise their own. That's okay. So just answering Julia's question, you shouldn't have to refresh your YouTube stream to update. Just make sure that it hasn't been paused, because sometimes some browsers can just pause the player. It will just keep it running. And pause the player is a very seamless pun to take us through to the next.
Oh, you love a pun
section.
We can see, by the way, there's some questions coming in. So what we'll do is we'll get to the end. We've got 2 more mini campaigns we're going to talk about, and then we'll go through some of your questions before we start on the next section. Sorry, that's just my moderating hat on for a second. Sorry, Daniel, I've ruined your seamless pun.
Pause. Take a wee pause before. You may have seen Pets with programmes. This has been running for many years. Because people's pets just love to get their paws and claws stuck, and talons and whiskers, and I forgot what do ducks have? Just feet, webbed feet, stuck onto the programme. Just love taking photos of them with the programme. This is something that Fringe goers share, but equally it's an opportunity for Fringe shows.
Yeah.
But what do they have to bear in mind?
Well, they have to bear in mind everything we were talking about of overly plugging or over salesy, or if you mention, you're going to get sick of us saying it, but if you start mentioning your show, your venue, then suddenly your adorable pet can't get retweeted and shared by us.
And over the years, the number of people who've tried what we call the tactical paw. If we had £1 for every time someone said, Molly is having a lovely time reading the Fringe programme, and we can see, what is her paw on? And it's your show listing. We've seen that 100 times. Good luck with that approach.
So not even you're not even allowed to subtly.
No.
Try and.
No matter how cute
your
dog, cat, or indeed the more obscure the animal, as long as it's ready, willing, and happy to be there.
Oh, that snake freaks me out.
The snake was creepy.
Although it fit very well into the campaign. Colouring was wonderful. If that's your snake, no bad feelings.
In fact, it's ever present and ever popular. It's a really good thing to do in the run up to the Fringe because people aren't in Edinburgh but they're excited. So excited, they get so into the programme it makes them have a little sneeze, like the pug front and centre there.
And everyone loves pets.
Everyone loves pets.
Pet sells.
Pet sells. And we have no favourite animal here at the Fringe Society. However, last year the public did throw their weight behind a certain animal, which we're not here to say whether that's right or wrong, but last year
dogs. What's my favourite?
Dogs at the Fringe was a phenomenon that started back in 2017 and took us by surprise. The sheer number of people in this day and age who just bring their dog onto the streets of Edinburgh to see the street events or to go into shows or to go into bars, it's absolutely huge.
We even had a dog celebrate the first ever World Fringe Day last year. I'm sure the dog won some Fringe vouchers.
The dog won free ticket vouchers.
Yeah.
But it was...
Danny, you said dogs in bars. Now, for anyone not from the UK, this might be a bit of a strange thing, like the whole dogs in pubs situation. People can bring their dogs into pubs here?
It varies. It truthfully is one of, speaking from the perspective of the questions we get in from consumers on social media, we get tens of thousands. One of the biggest questions we're not able to answer is, does venue X allow dogs? Obviously, we allow assistance dogs if you require a dog for accessibility reasons. That is the law. A venue has to allow that dog in. But when it comes to just a pet that you've got, it varies from venue to venue. And Dogs at the Fringe was a great opportunity for people to shout about what spaces did allow dogs in. And there were hundreds upon hundreds of people posting pictures of their pets at the Fringe. So much so that Twitter picked it up as one of the moments of the summer. So again, if you are bringing a dog, that's great. If you're not, someone brings a dog. There's loads of little soft opportunities just to get your name out there without going, this dog can't wait to get a ticket for my show. It's all about the soft sell, not just from our impartiality perspective, but just in terms of doing social media well.
Yeah, and just keeping your social media varied and interesting, so it's not always and we're at rehearsals again. It's just another way of sort of keeping your content fun and buoyant. So we're about to head into part 2. So does anyone have any final messages before we get to some questions?
I think
Daniel's looking like he just wants to get to some questions.
there's so many good questions come in. We'll say it time and time again. We will try and share whatever we can, but if you can imagine the thousands and thousands of things that come in across these hashtags, there is no agreement that we will retweet X. If you do this, we'll retweet it. We just can't promise that, and we just want to manage your expectations. But we do everything in our power to try and share as much as we can, and that's why we have all these specific hashtags that we can point people to, where you can be partial or promote a show. And I think one of the questions is asking that, isn't there?
Yeah, so we've got one from Kate saying, are you saying Into the Unknown, we should never put our ticket information or links to programme?
And Caustic Comedy Events has sort of given us an example of is that's right. So just a final clarification, Daniel, on what should and shouldn't be.
So there is with all hashtags, there are no rules about what you can or can't do. It was simply a pointer that when you come to a mini campaign like Journeying into the Unknown or for Steps into the Unknown, sort of topics that we'd love to share content about, is if you can avoid the hard sell for those, that's super helpful. But when you're in general just talking on Into the Unknown, which you're welcome to do any day of the week, any time of the day, some of those tweets can be pushing your show, but it's all about finding that balance, which we will cover in the next section.
And so it's that thing of it's not the big case that you can't ever do that with the Into the Unknown, it's just if we're ever going to share it. So if it's something you're trying to take part of one of our mini campaigns, that's when to avoid it a little bit. Just picking up on a couple of the questions. Someone has asked about the street team and whether they can ever tweet their performance, who's going to be on the street event stages, which are all new and shiny for this year. I'm very excited to see them. Do you want to talk a little bit about that, Daniel?
Well, we'll just clarify, I think, firstly, Karen, do you want to talk about the stages and if people aren't familiar with them and what the role they play?
I can do that, it's one of my favourite topics. So the street event stages are stages, funnily enough, where participants can perform. Any registered participant can do a small 20-minute segment from their show. Don't feel pressure to have to sign up for it. If you are doing like quite a serious play, that a 20-minute section in the high street wouldn't work. But if you have a really sort of performative, like a music or dance, they tend to work really, really well. You can sign up for them just on our website in the street events section, or you can email streetevents@edfringe.com. We are going to have a whole new look footprint on the Royal Mile and on the Mound this year, so it's going to be a really exciting time to be a part, and it can be a really good marketing chance for your show to get out there in front of the public. Remember that it is a marketing opportunity and not just a performance, so have someone there flyering, direct people to it via social that you're going to be on the stage that day.
And you have to book a slot for that online.
Yeah.
You'll be able to find that on the performer section of the edfringe.com. But if you can't find it, send me an email at mediaadvice@edfringe.com, and I'll point you in the right direction of how to sign up for performance showcase opportunities and also street event stages.
And for the street events, I'm going to sound like a broken record, but because we're impartial, we can't promote individual shows. However, the street events are being revamped, and we'll have online listings of every single show that's happening. So every day we go online and say, make sure to check out what street performances are happening here, on this stage and that stage, so people have the opportunity to go on there and go, I saw a really good show on the lower high street at 12 o'clock, what was that? They can go online that same day and see what it was, and then maybe check out your show if they missed the chance to get your flyer, or they just want to go for that kind of digital approach and not taking paper flyers.
Amazing. I'm going to use Ron's question, thank you Ron, to seamlessly, as long as Daniel answers it the way I think he's going to, segue into part 2 of this session. So Daniel, any recommendations on the best social media channels? Twitter, Facebook, Insta?
Well, if we had £1 for every time we said we're impartial, this is not actually one of those occasions. But before we get stuck into specific social media channels, we thought we'd just look at the basics that we touched upon in the previous session about marketing your show, which is the first question. What channels will seamless work best for you and your show? And actually, I'm going to bring our second question in, which is how to manage your time and who's in control. The answer to this question varies massively based on who you are, whether you've used these channels before, how many of you there are, how many times you've been to the Fringe, what following you already have. And there isn't a one-size-fits-all answer, which is very fitting for the Fringe. There is never a single answer that covers everything. So the first questions of which channels will work best for you in your show. Over the next 25 minutes, we're going to look into the 3 key channels we believe are worth looking at when coming to the Fringe. The sort of the pros and cons of either and how to use them best. The second one, though, about how to manage your time, who's in control, it's a really common discussion point for you, Alan, isn't it?
Yeah, I've been answering these questions since like 2015 when I started here at the Fringe Society, but also been dealing with them with myself when I've been shows since 2010. And it's a tricky one because we always say social media costs nothing or next to nothing, and you might be doing some paid advertising in your budget, but when it comes to your time, that's what your time and your energy, that's what it can cost a lot. And those are things that are really valuable in August, particularly if you're kind of like a one-person band and you're doing like sort of, you've got a multitude of different hats on, let's say during the Fringe. So what we say is that kind of little and often, if you can get your campaign up and running, so as you're not starting from scratch at the Fringe, have some content ready, so use our little mini campaigns to be like, oh, I've just seen a dog, that's great, that is me sorted for the afternoon, and keep things ticking over. And as Daniel says, pick the channels that work for you. If you can go across all 3, or even more if you if you can work across them all, great. But actually, if you're like, oh, I don't have loads of time, pick the one that's going to work for you. And also pick the one in your company. If you have someone, you may be in charge of the whole marketing campaign of your show, but actually you've got a sort of young 18-year-old in the cast who is like viral on social media, use them, have them run the campaign, because like it's something that almost you can't teach. If someone's got that sort of magic ability to be like really, really great at it, why not take advantage of that? You're laughing because of my wording.
Not your wording. Anyone can be good at social media, whether they're age 18.
I wasn't going to say that. I wasn't being ageist. I was being, from the examples that I'm given, it is often a sprightly young thing.
Just to add on quickly to what Alan said about, figuring out your time, one thing I often do when I'm helping people with their marketing plans is, and for the social media side of things, is just coming up with a bit of almost like a calendar, and I'm sure our social media guys do the same thing. I've done this in previous jobs. Plot out your days and plot out what you're going to do on each day, whether it's joining in with the campaigns that we're doing, like Quick Flyer on Fridays, Pets with Programs, things like that, some behind the scenes stuff, the pictures about your show, where your tickets are on sale, things like that. Just plot it out on a calendar so you don't actually have to come up with content every single day. You can just refer to the calendar and just have that content ready to go.
Exactly. And we talk about the makeup of selling a show and just being yourself, but I think, in my opinion, the most important side of social media is actually nothing to do with what you're sharing, it's what people are sharing about you. And this, for me, from an audience goer perspective, is really critical. Obviously, this doesn't work for every show, just based on genre or theme or what you're tackling. But a significant proportion of shows do have the opportunity at the end of the show, even if you're doing, say, a bucket pitch for your free show, is to say, make sure to go on social and, follow me if you already have the account in question. But even if you choose after this chat not to set up any accounts because you think, I don't have the time or it doesn't suit what I'm doing, there's still that opportunity to tell people coming to your show, please just go online, recommend it to a friend face to face, or online, or on Quick Flyer, or Into the Unknown. Either of those will kind of work.
Yeah, because there's nothing more frustrating than when you've seen a show that you love and you want to sort of scream it from the mountaintops, and then you're like, actually, I don't know how to find them on social. I can't share that. I mean, obviously we're impartial, so I can never do that anyway. But I've legitimately had friends be like, I've just seen this amazing show and I can't find them on Twitter, say, so as I can tell everyone to go and see it.
Just on that, before we get into the specific social media channels, if someone hasn't set up their social media channels, is it best to do it from a person, like from your own, or if you already have something set up, is it better to tweet and post from your personal Facebook or Twitter pages, or would you suggest setting up a show page, or would you suggest setting up a company page? What's the best thing to do?
So it really depends, and particularly one of our key messages for today is don't feel like you have to rush off and set up everything. It's really a case of, when you're talking about the amount of time it takes, just finding the right thing that suits you. And if you have, imagine today you have no channels, maybe just focusing on one, and hopefully the three we'll detail today, the pros and cons will help you do that. But with regards to how you position it, I guess it depends what you're doing the Fringe for, but on the whole, we hope if you look into the long term, that isn't just a one-off Fringe or a one-off performance, you'll go on to other places. So if you start acquiring fans that follow you, you want to take them with you on the long haul. So therefore, think about how you position your account based on what you could be doing next year at the Fringe, or indeed anywhere in the world, is where you're going to take these people. So if you're a solo performer and you think you're performing solo this year and in future years, setting up an account for yourself makes complete sense. If you're a performing company, then it's a bit different, because if you're doing a show for this year and maybe taking it on tour and then the show's ended, rather than creating an account for that show, maybe look at you as a company about acquiring those followers, so when you come back next year or you go to other festivals in future years with different shows, they're still with you. And looking at what other people do, that is the approach that we would recommend, but it depends on your circumstances and why you're coming to the Fringe.
One question I get a lot, Daniel, is people have been so far just plugging their show from just their personal Facebook or Twitter accounts. Should they, if they do want a long-term future, should they be now, is it too late to be setting up a company or a performer page now?
It depends on the channels, so I think we'll come on to that, because it's big differences in the way you can pick up fans between one and another.
Okay, cool.
And on that, I'm going to play lead moderator and move us forward.
Okay.
I'm going to quickly answer Michael's question just at the start. It's not so much on social media, you're just looking about booking extra days on street events. I'm going to give you the email address, streetevents@edfringe.com. So the lovely team at the end of that account will be able to help with any sort of extra inquiries. And we always say that even sometimes when the street events are fully booked, people are always sort of cancelling last minute because of the sort of busy nature of the Fringe. So it's always best to just drop them a line and be like, oh, do you know if anything's become available? So that was a quick answer to that question. And now I think we're moving seamlessly on to Twitter. Is going to be the first channel.
Should we pick up that question that's just come in? Just to reiterate, it obviously depends on the nature of your show, but if you're a performing company that's going to bring different shows in different years, our recommendation would be to create an account and a brand for your company to direct people to.
And you can just plug each new show as it comes on your company pages.
Yeah.
Yep, okay, got it.
Hopefully that answers that question, but if you have any questions about that or indeed anything else we cover, just throw them in the live chat.
It's all top chat.
It's all top chat. We'll try and pick them up as we go. So these are the 3 channels we're going to talk about. I don't think there are any surprises, the ones we're talking about, and we'll try and rattle through them as quickly as we can. But the first is Twitter, the second is Facebook, and the third is Instagram. Before we get stuck into that, we have been promising for quite a while to talk about the makeup of how you promote your show, like hard sell versus soft sell. And this is probably an area where we may have different views because there is no rule as such. Caroline, what's your view on this?
Well, one thing we often say when we're giving out media advice is stick to a sort of a rule of 10. So, and that is for, and some of you may have already heard me talk about this if I've spoken to you, and that is for every 10 posts you do on social media, 7 of them should be a soft sell. So that is, another day of rehearsals, we're back here at the theatre, or here's my pet with a program, or really just something that's just you having conversation with the people that are following you. It's got nothing to do with you selling tickets, it's got nothing to do with you plugging a show, it's really just you engaging in social conversation with the people on your social media that are following you on social media. 2 of the posts should be soft sells. So they are things like, we've got another day at rehearsals, by the way, you can buy tickets here, or only 20 days to go until we take the stage at Edinburgh Festival Fringe, till we're stepping into the unknown. You can find tickets to our show here. And then 1 out of every 10 posts can be a hard sell, and that's literally tickets are on sale now, here's where you can find them. Or we're opening at the Fringe today, come and buy a ticket. So that's kind of the rule of 10 that we often talk about.
My answer to your question, Daniel, is about that's soft sell bit is the really important bit, because it's the bit that's social. And you actually taught me back in the day about actually the most important thing about social media is being social. So it's everything Caroline just said about your own content, but also sharing other people's, or joining in conversations that other people are having, replying to their questions, offering advice to them, sort of sharing those stories and sort of keeping that kind of social world like widening out, so it doesn't feel like you're just like talking into the ether. And then alongside that, tone of voice I think is really important. So whether it is you, that sprightly 18-year-old from the company I mentioned earlier, the 50-year-old who's a social media whiz, whoever it is, making sure that you've got a consistent tone of voice and that it matches kind of who you are as a company and what your show is. So if your show is like a sort of irreverent, absurdist comedy, make sure that your Twitter's a little bit like that, or your Facebook posts are a little bit like that. Whereas if it is a bit more like austere or dramatic, then play around with your tone and just find the voice for your show so as you can engage in those conversations.
And sorry, Julia, just to clarify, you're right. I think I did say at the beginning 7 of them should be soft sell, and then 2 of them should be soft sell. 7 of them should be just general conversation, as Alan was just talking about your own show, or sharing other people's content. Another thing I suggest to people is if your show deals with things like mental health or various other things that are going on in the news at the moment, you can be sharing like news stories or great feature articles that relate to the themes of your show, which kind of build you up to be a bit of an expert in this area. And then when it comes time for you to sell tickets to your show, people are gonna want to come along and hear what you have to say. And
you find like what you tap into that actually works for you. So just like stay current and keep it moving with what works for you. If a post is performing really well, figure out why that is and follow on.
Well, I just on that, I think echo everything you guys have just said, and it's about you give a little love and you get it back. If you go see something that isn't your show, tweet about it, give that love, because Fringe is a big community of artists. If you start being nice to other people, you're gonna get it back in a really uncynical way.
Because it's weird, because it's really big, but it's also tiny wee, in that everyone knows everyone, and that you'll be amazed at how many people you start to see around, and if you're part of that conversation that's sharing.
So, and that small community is, we give that advice is don't be a dick.
Yeah.
If you're friendly and nice, it works. The recent question we just got through, percentage of retweets, I think just echoing what Caroline said, is that can be part of your soft chat. If someone else is just talking about their show, say like maybe they're giving out comps or maybe they're flyering or doing something, just sharing their content is part of that. I think that's absolutely fine. Time is marching on. We have about 11 minutes. We may overrun slightly. And obviously, if you have to head off, you can catch up. But we'll just try and power through these 3 channels in turn. Super fast. Power 3-4 minutes per channel.
I'm going to be so strict.
Okay, so
you guys talk, I'll moderate.
So Twitter, we've touched upon a few details, but the fundamental things about Twitter is it's a public open forum. Its benefits are that anyone can discover what you're saying. If you're posting something with the into the own hashtag or the quick flyer hashtag, people will find you even though they don't follow you. And that's why it's a really handy way at the Fringe. I'd argue it's the go-to channel because it's the way people find new things.
I second that.
The Fringe is where people come and discover you. They will find your posts by what you've written on it, or indeed at the end of your show, you say, come follow us at, in our case, Ed Fringe. And then they do, and it means that you've got them to be an advocate in this Fringe, and in future years, they'll keep an interest in you. The downsides of Twitter and one of the challenges is it's the most used channel during the Fringe, so you may feel overwhelmed, you may feel like there's a lot of noise, and that's why we come up with this sort of the principles of mixing hard sells and soft sells. We want you to go out there and start chatting about the Fringe and talking about your experiences. Because like Alan said earlier, you'll be amazed how people love the behind the scenes chat and what it's like to perform at the Fringe. So we recommend that even though you feel like you may just be shouting off the cliff at the ocean, it's kind of it's sort of a long game, but if you can't keep posting, keep showing some love with other performers, you're going to get something back, you're going to get pickup.
Yeah. And not to be too heavily like, Twitter's the best one. But why I think it really works is it just sums up the very nature of the Fringe and its immediacy. Like everything kind of happens, the conversation moves forward, and it's like we talked about at the very start, one of the great things about the Fringe is it's unknown, things are always changing, and Twitter tends to be one of the best at reacting quickly.
There's been quite a few questions about discovering hashtags and creating hashtags. When it comes to discovering hashtags, we're obviously going to recommend the ones that we've been working with because they are the most actively used. In regards to whether you should tag at @EdFringe or hashtag #EdFringe, our main advice is use hashtag into the unknown above anything else. If you want to bring something to our attention, you can tag it at @EdFringe or indeed hashtag #EdFringe. We treat them as one of the same. That makes no difference, but if you only have the space, particularly on Twitter, because you're limited to 280 characters, because it's now doubled in length, but it's still quite concise, is hashtag into the unknown. And if you go onto that, that is where you can then discover other hashtags people are using.
Daniel, what's the difference between a hashtag and an @? Some people are still a bit unsure about that.
So the at @EdFringe is sort of notifying us. You know, it's letting us know that you've mentioned us, but other people aren't going to see that as easily. Whereas on a tweet, if you see hashtag into the unknown, if you click on that, it opens up the whole world. You jump into the unknown, you see what people are saying, so you'll see other hashtags that are working. But we really think into the unknown is kind of the go-to hashtag as a whole.
If you're going to be tagging in, my tip would be, like, if you've got a venue that's really sort of socially engaged and they can shout about you in the way that we can't. Because they don't have to be so impartial. Exactly. So if you've got a venue that's absolutely nailing it on Twitter, put them into your posts and sort of have fun engaging with them and bring them into the conversation. I'm looking at the time. I'm going to give you one more. I'm going to give us each one more point on Twitter.
Do you want to go?
Mine was more of a question, Alan. I was going to ask you. People often ask me, should I be @ing at journalists?
Some journalists like it, but my advice would always be careful. Remember, it's a human on the other end, and don't be like sort of obsessive about it. Don't be rude about it. Keep it casual. Check out their Twitter first. You will very much see from someone's account whether they're up for that kind of conversation or whether they're just going to find it quite annoying when they've got an already sort of really busy inbox. So it's one of those annoying answers that's kind of like play it by ear, but generally do your research and keep your tone right is so important.
I'm going to cheat with the 2 points on Twitter just because one's a follow-up,
okay,
which is that thing about tagging journalists or indeed other people. Other Twitter users can see when you've posted 24 tweets going @journalist1, @journalist2 with the same message. It's so annoying, it's so frustrating, and it's highly unlikely to result in any positive action, and it kind of looks like you are just spamming people, so we would strongly recommend not doing that.
Whereas if they just posted a review of a show like yours, you'd be like,
that's fine.
I saw this, loved this, I think you'd really love mine, we'd love a review from you. Keep the tone.
Keep it, like everything, keep it tailored. My second point about Twitter, which kind of links to Instagram as well, is about how do you go about creating a hashtag. There is no guardian or gatekeeper, much like the Fringe itself. Anyone can create a hashtag as they go. So our recommendation is just to have a little search if anyone has used it before, because you'll be amazed maybe in other languages or unwitting messages you've got in your hashtag. We will not mention those examples because they're hilarious.
Always check them.
Always check them. And then
have someone else look to make sure there's no secret messages that you may not want in your hashtag.
Just keep it super short, super simple, and make it something that's easy to type on a mobile phone. So if it's, into the unknown, that is an example, in our opinion, of an easy to write hashtag. Whereas like EDF18, it doesn't make much sense. It's quite hard to type. It's not that interesting. It doesn't say what it is. To keep it simple, if you have your own hashtag, do pop it on your flyer. It's up to you.
Top tip: watch out for anything that has like an apostrophe or anything, because that can sometimes throw people right off.
Is there a limit to how many hashtags you should put? Because I see posts that have like 40 hashtags after them.
Just keep it. Unlike Instagram, with Twitter, brevity, even though you can write 280 characters, brevity is still the best thing. The shorter a tweet is, the better it does. So, there's no hard and fast rule. 2, 3, 4 hashtags, but not 40. It's just not fun to read.
On the point of brevity, Twitter is now done, finished.
Right.
Get to us.
Facebook, it's quite a quick one. It's great, but it's really hard to use at the Fringe. Facebook is fantastic if you have a brand page and you want to have fans over time. But Facebook is not so good for people just stumbling across what you're saying, because there is that same search feature, that same hashtag feature where you just see what's being talked about.
Yeah, we always say Facebook's great for the people who already love you and support you and want to know what you're doing. Not so good for finding new people.
And every year that passes, Facebook gets more and more aggressive about limiting who sees what you're sharing. So our advice is really, it's like your third choice. You can capture fans there, but it's hard to keep them there. It's hard, you're preaching to the converted. So actually, do you want to put your efforts there, or do you want to get new people on side?
And as Dan said, it's just a really good way of converting those people that are almost like your definite sales and kind of drumming them up. So like kind of like a call to arms to the people who already love you, if that makes sense.
So that's it. We can't give more. In fact, there's
I do have one question. Actually, some people want to know about using Facebook advertising, putting a little bit of money behind some Facebook posts and promoting them. What do you think?
If you could all see Daniel's face right now.
It's an interesting one. I try and think of a concise answer. It can be fantastic. Facebook advertising works on an auction basis, and the biggest challenge you get at the Fringe is there are 3,500 plus shows plus 300 venues all trying to get people to see what's happening. So you're going to be bidding against thousands of other people, so it's actually where it's one of the hardest places to get seen. If you do have budget spare, which it just isn't a thing. Like, it's just, I didn't think it's a worthwhile use of time or money. But you can give it a go and see if it works.
So even when Facebook's saying for £5 you can boost this post?
I think, in an impartial way, your time and efforts will be spent better elsewhere.
Maybe on, as Julia's questioned, Instagram?
Yes. Great question.
Seamless. Thank you, Julia.
We'll checks in the post. So Instagram is brilliant. From the Fringe Society's perspective, it is our fastest growing channel by miles, because it's just more interesting, but it is very image led. So this really depends on what your show has to offer. If you have a very visual show, it's brilliant to show behind the scenes, or costume making, or
things with puppets. Things with puppets. Incredibly well on Instagram.
It's a lot of the messages for Instagram hold true for Twitter. Like from Twitter, hold true for Instagram. You use hashtags, people discover you. The one major difference with regards to hashtags on Instagram, more is better. You can use up to 20 hashtags. There's differing opinions whether you put that in your post, whether you comment afterwards with it, but it's a really great place for people to discover what's happening. I strongly urge you, if you use Instagram as a consumer, check out Into the Unknown. You can actually follow a hashtag now, and you could see what people are posting, and you'll get an actual really good mix of people that are bringing shows and people that are visiting. It's a great starting point. And my only other Instagram point is, if you have it and you want to give it a go, Instagram stories are a really handy way to just give a bit of rough and ready behind the scenes content of, it's not that good. You can do video, but you don't have to have it shot properly on a camera. You can shoot it in portrait, which still makes me shudder slightly. But you can share stuff about who you are. But that's, again, it's sort of down the list. If you've done everything else, you feel like you're nailing that, then you can try stories on Instagram.
Yeah, it feels like you get the foundation right, and then Instagram allows you to go further once you've kind of got that following.
Yeah, I wouldn't throw all your eggs in the Instagram basket unless your show is incredibly strong. Anna's asked any tips on how to get Instagram images onto Twitter and not links. Assuming you're posting from a mobile device, on most devices, when you post onto Instagram, you can change your settings to save that photo to your device. Just post it straight onto Twitter. With all these social networks, they prefer you to share stuff the way they intended. So you're better off uploading that photo directly to Twitter or indeed to Facebook than you are to share a link. It just is more visible.
Loving the top tips from Daniel. I'm learning.
They said the top
that's
tips.
Instagram. So we're now seamlessly into our top. I've used the word seamlessly way too many times. I promise, never again. So this is our top tips. Is that guy postering in that picture?
He is, yeah.
Doing?
Yeah.
Wow, that's a good tip. Sorry. So I'm going to go down the line and then everyone give their top tip on using social media for the 2018 Fringe, promote their show. Daniel, I'm going to start with you. Go.
You won't be surprised to hear me say use into the unknown.
Yeah.
But more importantly, look at it. Keep checking in on it every day. See what other people are doing. See how people are experiencing the Fringe. Interact with them if it's relevant. Don't annoy people. And obviously use a quick flyer on the Fridays or any time. And we will do everything we can to make sure as many people around the world and coming to visit Edinburgh will see that.
Great. Caroline, top tip?
I would think keep an eye on like the news cycle and any themes that may be appearing in the news that your show is also dealing with. Like as I mentioned before, I've talked to some people about their shows dealing with mental health. So if there's some great mental health stories coming out, or somebody else is on social media talking about some themes that are appearing in your show, get on board with that. Join the conversation by hashtagging whatever the trending hashtag is. Also add the hashtag into the unknown, of course. But join the conversation and get your Fringe show noticed in amongst a wider conversation that's happening out there.
So I think Julia's giving her own top tip, so make sure you check that in the comments section. Thank you very much, Julia. And Sarah thinks our accents are beautiful, and my accent has literally never been called beautiful. So thank you. My top tip is going to sound a little basic compared to the other two, but mine is don't have it feel like a chore. So if you're struggling in any way and you're not finding it coming naturally, don't force that, or don't feel like you need to kind of work through that. If it's starting to feel like a chore, it's probably not going to be the most effective content. So maybe take a break, look at what other people are saying, what other people are sharing, and try and get into the conversation that way. So as you can start sharing other people's until you find where your natural groove is, so as it doesn't feel forced. That sounds a little bit basic next to some of the experts, but it's that thing about just kind of having fun with it. If it starts to feel like a chore, you're probably heading in the wrong direction. So just like change things up. I guess that's my top tip.
And it's not a top tip, but it's one of the questions I know we may have missed earlier about Periscope. Periscope is simply a way of broadcasting live video onto Twitter. It's owned by Twitter. It's really super simple to use. You download the app and you just start broadcasting. So maybe during Quickflyer, that may suit you.
And just to clarify and to culminate a few questions that I've seen with the hashtag into the unknown, yes, put it on all your marketing material. Yes, put it on every post that you post, whether it's your seven general conversations, 2 soft sells or 1 hard sell. Just use it everywhere.
And speaking of soft sell, a little show promotion in the channel. The more people using Into the Unknown, the more people are going to see your show.
And do you know what? Use each other. Like, they're in the comment section now, just being able to like talk to each other and engage with each other. We talked about the Fringe being a community, and that's absolutely right. Like, one of the best things I got from the first year I performed there was making sort of relationships in venues, talking to the other acts there, sharing your audience, cross-marketing. That's what social's made for. That's what it's great for.
And as well as talking to other performers and indeed venues, finally, you
talk to us.
Talk to us.
So again, mediaadvice@fringe.com. Caroline and I are at the end of that email address. We're also now officially, as of yesterday, moved into our home at Fringe Central, so you can absolutely sort of come in and meet us in person when you arrive in Edinburgh. Come and say hello. You can follow us on all of the social channels listed there. So at Fringe is very much, that's the Fringe Twitter. At Fringe Central is very much us trying to help and engage with participants and what's happening in Fringe Central. Daniel, do you want to talk a little bit about the Facebook post that's there?
Just very quickly, you may see on here bit.ly/ FCFB 2018, all uppercase. That is, if you haven't seen it already, is a specific Fringe Central Facebook group for you to have to share hints and tips on what's happening. I'm going to nick that point. There's a final question about advertisements on Instagram and Twitter. Same thing. If you've got the time and the resource and the money to do so, give it a go. Start small. You can spend just £5 and see how it does. But we think that there's a number of other ways you could use your time more effectively to reach more people. That's a recommendation. We've just been told that the webcam's going on again, which is a bit scary. So is it time to say goodbye?
Yeah, so thank you, genuinely. It's been so great how involved